what we are going to look at in this lesson is a few things. Let's start with this, for example. Let's say we want to add age to this method, okay? And let's try and run this first without doing anything else and see what errors we get. So make sure you're in Ruby. It's a Ruby main. We have an error, undefined local variable or method age. Okay, so this is basically saying that we have not put this in the argument. So I say age, put it there. All right, so let's try it again. So it says wrong number of arguments. We've given 1 when 2 is required. Okay, so that's how you read that error message there. So we're given 1 there, so we need to give 2. So we have Ken and 30. So let's run this again. My name is Ken, I am 30 years old. So now that works. Of course, years old. And everything is fine, 30 years old. Good. So we have these 2 variables, name and age. Okay, but this is where we are calling it from. But the thing is, I'm having to memorize the order that is given. But what happens if I said this way, introduce 30? So now it says my name is 30, I am 10 years old, which doesn't make any sense at all. Now, to solve this problem, we basically need to use a different type of argument. Okay, so we need to give, let's put this back to the way it was. So there's another type of argument that's a named argument. So we put colon in front of the names, which is basically something like this. Okay, so this is a method. This is a named argument which has a value false. So now that we have a named argument, let's see what happens when we try to run our method again. So now it says we'll have a wrong number of arguments. We've given 2 arguments when 0 is required, which is strange. Okay, so the problem here is there's a difference between arguments and named arguments. Okay, so what we now need to do, once we have colons in front of our arguments, we need to give them names when we call them. So we say name is Ken and age is 30. So it has to have that those keywords there. So now when we run it, it says my name is Ken, I am 30 years old. So that's expected. Now let's try rearranging this and see what happens. So I'll take this here and I paste it here. Okay, and now when we run it, it's still correct. My name is Ken, I am 30 years old. So now we have an idea of a named parameter. So, but what happens if we decide to maybe for now, if we just come over here, we could get rid of this, save this, and try to run it. And Ruby main, so it says missing keywords. So now we have another word to add to our vocabulary. So keywords. So name and age are referred to as keywords. Okay, so this is a keyword, this is a keyword, but together they are named arguments or named keywords. Alright, so there we go. So we have this error there because we haven't put anything, but we could avoid that error by having default values. So when we call introduce and we don't supply anything, we say we want it to default to name is Kingsley and age is 32. Alright, let's try calling it one more time. So there we go. We have name is Kingsley, I'm 32 years old. Alright, so we've had a look at method, named arguments. We can put name Danielle there, and when we run it, it says my name is Danielle, I'm 32 years old. So we've basically passed in just the name keyword, so that's replaced this here, but it's retained the 32 years old. So that's essentially why we have colons in front. So there are named arguments. So if you can make a note of that, named arguments, that's what this is. But then we have these ones. We have colons at the back of the words. So let's see what that is about. So essentially, those are strings. Okay? If I change this to that and try and run it, you notice it runs just normally. So it says, my name is Daniel, I'm 32 years old. So why do we need two ways of doing exactly the same thing? But it's not exactly the same. Let's have a look and see. So in Ruby, everything is an object, right? So we have Daniel as a string, but it has an object ID since everything is an object. So if I save this and I run it, I expect to see an object ID. I need to print it, which I always forget. So that is the object ID for that string. Okay, but if I copy this and paste it a few times and try to run it again, you'll notice we have different IDs each time. Now this is not an efficient use of memory, okay, especially since we are dealing with exactly the same string, Daniel, 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 every time. Okay, so every time we create a new object, we are using up memory space. All right, so let's see the alternative. So if we put a colon in the beginning, making it a symbol, and then we try to run it again, it has an ID. So we'll copy this a few times, and then we try to run it again. You'll notice now we have exactly the same IDs. So symbols basically remembers the IDs and reuses exactly the same object. So we're saving memory space. We're not having to create lots and lots of objects. Okay, so that's why we have the symbols in front. So this full name, for example, is just a string. It's equivalent to something like this. Okay, but it's just a more efficient string. So that covers this. We understand the colon in front. We've done that. We can undo this, and we can try and see what we can do with our newly acquired knowledge of symbols. So let's say study accepts an argument, and we could use our interpolation here. Name is going to come in here. We'll give it a default value. So if we call study without giving it anything, it will take Kingsley as a symbol. So we can change here too. So it's also an efficient string. All right, so we can just give this a name anyways and say Daniel, so it matches. And we have everything is there. So let's try and run this. And something didn't work. I've forgotten my single quotation. So it really needs to be double quotation when you're dealing with lots of more than one character. My bad habit, don't learn that. So there we go. My name is Daniel. Daniel studies software testing. So it's perfect, it works. So that's what symbols are there for. Okay, so I can change this to Danielle. It's still exactly the same thing. It works exactly the same way, but it's just inefficient use because new object is created for these two, even though they're exactly the same things. All right, so we can change it back to symbols. So this is much more efficient use, and we now understand what the colon in front and behind mean. So we've conquered this, and we've conquered this. So next we have to conquer is this. It's called a block. Okay, I'll see you in the next lesson.